Hi, everyone, and welcome back to English Unleashed. I'm Tom.
And I'm Sarah.
We're so happy to have you with us. Whether you're listening for the first time or you've been learning with us for a while.
This channel is all about helping intermediate and beginning English learners build real, natural English. The kind of English people use every day at work, with friends, and in real-life situations.
Our goal is to help you sound more fluent, natural, and confident, one episode at a time. Now, today's episode is about time, but not the grammar of time, like past tenses or future forms. We're looking at those small but powerful expressions that tell us when something happened and how events are connected.
These are words like prior to, subsequently, earlier on, in the meantime, and so on.
So they may sound a little formal, but we use many of them in everyday English too, especially when we're telling a story or explaining things in order.
So here's how it works. First, we'll listen to a short and simple conversation between two friends talking about a busy, eventful week. Then, we'll break it all down for you, one expression at a time. We'll explain what each phrase means, how it's used, and we will share some personal stories to make it more real and easy to remember.
We will also give you tips on how to start using these expressions in your own conversations, at work, in writing, or even when telling your friends what happened last week.
All right then, let's dive into today's conversation and hear how these time expressions come to life.
Hey Nora, sorry I didn't call you back yesterday. Everything's been a bit intense lately.
No worries at all. What's going on? You sounded stressed in your message.
Well, prior to last week, my life was actually quite calm. I was just working on reports and helping my team. Nothing too big. But then, suddenly, my manager had to leave. And now, I'm the one leading the project.
Wow, that's a big step. So they just handed it over to you?
Pretty much. And I didn't have much time to prepare. Previously, I had only ever done small support tasks. But now, I'm the one making decisions, leading meetings. It's a bit overwhelming.
That sounds like a lot to take in. Did anything difficult happen right away?
Yeah, earlier on, I had to explain the full project plan to the whole team. And honestly, I wasn't ready. I was nervous. My voice was shaking, but I managed.
That must have been tough. And I remember you were also moving, right?
Yeah, the new flat is nice, but it has a funny story. Formerly, it was a bakery, and I swear, every morning it still smells like cinnamon rolls. It's nice, but a little weird when you're brushing your teeth and suddenly you're craving pastries.
That's actually kind of charming. So, what are you doing in the meantime?
Well, trying to hold it all together. Meanwhile, Ellie's getting ready for her trip to Berlin, so we've been packing her suitcase, buying gifts for her host family, buying flights, all while I'm trying to run a project at work.
So, all this happening at the very moment you're suddenly in charge at work?
Exactly. It's like both things started simultaneously. My new role and her travel plans. Everything just landed at once.
And after that, any chance you'll get a break?
Well, following this crazy week, I've got a big presentation on Monday. Then, subsequently, I need to prepare our team's monthly report.
Oh boy. And Ellie's trip?
She's leaving next Friday. I'm flying out after that to meet her for the weekend in Berlin. Just a short break. I'll probably sleep the whole time.
Sounds like you deserve it.
All right, let's begin with the first expression we heard in the dialogue. Prior to. Lucas said, prior to last week, I had never led a project.
Now, prior to simply means before, but it has a slightly more formal tone, something you often hear in business, reports, or formal writing.
Exactly. If you just say before, that's totally fine in everyday English. But prior to gives your sense a bit of distance. It's great when you want to sound thoughtful or reflect on a bigger change, like a moment when your life shifted.
Yeah, and it's not just about time. Prior to often comes with a feeling that something important changed. You're showing contrast between what life was like before and what it's like now.
That reminds me, when I changed careers, I used that phrase a lot. I would say, prior to becoming a teacher, I worked in IT. And to be honest, it was a completely different world. Different skills, different pace. Using prior to helped me explain that this wasn't just a little change. It was a shift in identity.
That's a great example. For me, it was when I moved abroad for the first time. People would ask, have you lived outside the UK before? And I would say, no. Prior to moving to Spain, I had only ever lived in my hometown. It felt like I was entering a whole new chapter in life, and using prior to helped me express that.
It really adds weight to your sentence. It says something was true before, but things are different now.
Yeah, you might also hear this in more formal emails or documents. For example, in a job application, you might see, prior to my current role, I worked as a customer service advisor.
Or in a presentation, you might hear, prior to the launch, we tested the product in 3 countries.
To sum it up, if you want to say before something happened in a slightly more serious or thoughtful way, prior to is a great tool.
It's especially useful in storytelling, when you're explaining what life was like before something big changed.
All right, now let's move on to another word that was used in this dialogue. Previously. Lucas said, previously, I was only helping with reports. So, what does previously mean?
Well, it's another way to say before, but it feels a little more neutral than prior to. It's not as formal, but it still sounds organized, like you're giving your listener a timeline.
Yeah, it's perfect when you're telling a story and you want to give some background. For example, previously, I worked in retail before moving into education.
It helps your listener understand what came before the current situation.
For me, I use this word a lot when I talk about my teaching journey. For example, previously, I used to teach in large classrooms. Now, I work more with small groups and online learners. It shows how something in my past connects to what I'm doing now, but without sounding too formal or distant.
And it's great for those moments when you're explaining a change or a contrast. Let me give you another personal one. I used to live in the countryside. Previously, my mornings were quiet. Birds, trees, walks. Now, I live in a city. My mornings are full of traffic, noise, and takeaway coffee. Totally different rhythm.
I've had that switch too. When I moved back from Spain, I remember trying to get used to the Britain weather again. Previously, I walked to work in the sunshine. Now, I carry an umbrella everywhere, just in case. So, when should you use previously?
Think of it like this. You're giving the listener a little window into the past. just enough to understand what has changed. And it's great in everyday conversation. You might say things like, I've been to that restaurant before. Previously, I tried their pasta. It was amazing.
Or, previously, she worked for a tech company, but now she's in healthcare. It's also very common in news reports, documentaries, or even podcasts. You'll hear previously on this show before they give you a recap of the story.
So while prior to feels a bit more formal or serious, previously is a lot more easygoing and informal.
All right, let's look at a more casual phrase now. One that feels a lot more relaxed and friendly. Lucas said, earlier on, I had to explain the project plan to the whole team.
Yeah, earlier on just means something happened earlier in the day or earlier in the conversation or earlier in the story. It's like saying a little while ago, but more specific than just saying before.
It's great for when you're telling someone about your day or even something that happened earlier on in the same conversation.
Exactly. I say this all the time at work. Like, earlier on, I emailed the client, but I haven't heard back yet.
It helps people know where we are in the timeline without being too formal. Now, let me give you a real example from today. Earlier on, I tried to bake a banana cake. I was feeling all proud of myself until I realized I forgot the baking powder. It came out like a brick.
For me, I had a bit of chaos this morning. Earlier on, my dog managed to open the back door by himself and escape into the garden. He came back 5 minutes later like nothing happened, covered in mud.
Earlier on is great for those mini stories that happened just a short while ago. Not yesterday, not last year, but sometime today, or maybe earlier in the same conversation.
Okay, the next word Lucas used is one that sounds a little formal, but it's very useful when you're describing the past identity of something or someone. He said, formerly, it was a bakery. The word formerly means in the past, but not anymore. It's a great way to talk about what something or someone used to be called or used to be.
It's especially common with jobs, buildings, names, or even titles. I used it quite a bit when describing career changes. I'll say something like, I'm Tom, formerly a software developer, now an English teacher. It helps show that I had a completely different career path before, and formerly gives that feeling of that was another chapter of my life.
Yeah, it's also a really handy word when places change. There's a cafe near my house now, but when I first moved to the area, it was a pharmacy. So I sometimes tell my friends, that cafe on the corner, it was formerly a chemist.
Same here. In my hometown, there's a small cinema now. But formerly, it was a little community theater. And even though the building looks the same on the outside, inside, it feels totally different.
You will also hear formerly used in more official ways, in news reports or even in introductions. For example, this is Mr. Lewis, formerly head of marketing at BBC. It tells us what important roles someone held in the past, and that now things have changed.
That's a good point. And just a reminder, this word is a bit more formal than used to be. Like, you wouldn't normally say, my cat was formerly fluffy. You'd just say, she used to be fluffy. Now she's shaved.
Yeah, exactly. So use formerly when you want to sound more polished or when you're describing official or professional changes.
Okay, let's move on to one of the most useful time expressions in English, and one that sounds very natural in both speaking and writing. What are you doing in the meantime?
Right. So, in the meantime means during the time between two other events. It's that space between now and something that's about to happen later. Think of it like a little waiting time. And what do you do while you're waiting?
Exactly. For example, let's say your friend is coming over at 6. It's 5:30 now, and you could say, in the meantime, I'll clean up the kitchen. So you're using the time between now and then to do something else.
Yeah. And honestly, I use this phrase almost every week. Here's a real story. Last month, my car was in the shop for repairs. I couldn't go anywhere. The mechanic said, it'll be ready in 2 hours. So in the meantime, I went for a walk, got a coffee, and read a book in the park. It helped me stay calm instead of just waiting in the garage.
Oh, I love that. And I use this at work all the time. If my students are working on a task and I'm waiting for them to finish, I might say, in the meantime, I will start preparing the next activity. It's such a helpful phrase when you want to be productive while something else is happening or coming up.
Okay, next up is one of those words that sounds a bit more formal, and it's actually super useful. Simultaneously. That just means at the exact same time.
Exactly. In the dialogue, Nora asked, "So everything's happening simultaneously?" And Lucas said, "Yeah." It's a perfect word for moments when a lot of things are going on together. Not one after the other, but all at once. I remember one weekend when I was preparing a lesson, helping my daughter with her homework and cooking dinner, all simultaneously. My brain was in 3 places at once. It wasn't pretty.
Oh, I have had days like that. Last month, I was teaching a class online while someone rang the doorbell, the washing machine beeped, and my phone started buzzing. It felt like everything in the world wanted my attention simultaneously, at the same time.
It's a great word when you want to show that your time is being pulled in different directions. But it also works in more serious or professional situations. For example, the company launched 2 products simultaneously, one in Europe and one in Asia.
Right. And I have heard it in news reports too. The 2 leaders spoke simultaneously at their events. It gives a very precise picture of timing, more exact than just saying at the same time.
And one little tip for our learners. If the word simultaneously feels too formal for your everyday speech, you can also use at the same time. But simultaneously is great when you want to sound more polished, especially in writing, in presentations, or in IELTS exam.
All right. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope these time expressions help you tell your stories more clearly and confidently. Remember, it's not just about learning new words, it's about using them in real conversations.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to English Unleashed channel. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time with more everyday English you can really use.
Take care and happy learning.